Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as per usual, Harley, Jamie and James. Full crew tonight. Evening, gentlemen. How are we?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
So, James, just tell everyone, how long ago did you walk through the door from work?
At 18:03.
And we're now at 80. So
That's
literally
5
5
minutes.
minutes.
James is not a maths teacher.
Yeah. So James has done his prep work for tonight, so he's all good on that. Who wants to go first on drink of the week, gents? Let's get into it. Who's going to do drink of the week first?
Oh, go on, I'll start then.
Go on, and
so it's one I've had before, but it was this or cause, and thing. So I've gone for the cider. So I've gone for bottle of Rip Tickler. So it's the Exeter Chiefs Foundation sponsored beer from cider from Stanford Orchards. 5%. It is lovely. I'm not bothering with the wanky bollocks tonight.
No wanky
because
bollocks.
I am shattered.
Jamie, any wanky bollocks from you?
Yeah, so I got a beer that you'll be familiar with. I've got IPA from Valinvolt.
Ooh. Are you turning? Are you going the other way?
Well, beer-wise, I hope you mean. This came in Beer Club, so they're based out that way. And speaking of wanky bollocks, I don't know if you know this, Lee, but it says Valinvolt Brewery are the oldest canners of beer in the world. Did you know that? Yeah,
it's a bit like the New Zealand game. They don't mention it very often, you know.
Right. But yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's perfectly fine.
What New Zealand game?
James, I'm assuming that you didn't have enough time to find any wanky bollocks for this evening.
No, well, the drink I'm having is refreshingly lemon and lime taste. It's actually some 7-Up. Because it's literally the only thing I could find. I did stop in Morrison's really quickly. It's literally on the way to my flat, and I sort of ran through the beer section. I was like, I can't stop and read wanky bollocks this week. But I did have my eye on some Tiny Rebel that I found.
So this is how I select beer now. I was shopping on the weekend and I was looking at the beers, and the type of beer and all of that kind of stuff didn't matter. I was just reading the wanky bollocks and imagining your guys' reaction to when I read this out. How are you guys going to react? That's how I choose beer now. So saying that, I'm still on my Christmas. We're in February and I'm still drinking my Christmas beer. So this one is called Pia Wanga. Yeah, it's a New Zealand beer. Yeah, it's a New Zealand beer, but it's a New Zealand IPA, but it's from the Harbour Brewery, right? So I've got genuine wanky bollocks. So Pia Wanga is one of the Harbour Brewery's New Zealand IPA craft ales. Pia is Maori for beer, and Wanga is Maori for harbour. So the name simply means harbour beer. Blah, 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 blah. Quintessentially. Now, if you've got the word quintessentially on the side of a beer bottle, you need to give your head a wobble, because that's just fucking arseholes on speed, that is.
I don't know, this is peak hash...
Quintessentially New Zealand, using no less than 3 types of hops from the land of the long white cloud. I can't even say that word. Nelson Chauvin provides strong flavours of lemon, lime and tropical fruits, whilst Pacific Gem supports the fruity profile with distinct berry aromas and slight bitterness. Blended
that
with...
good.
I was going to say, it sounds very New Zealand, the bitterness.
Maris
like
of the extra pale malt. This pale ale is very light in colour, but heavy on delicious and stunning flavours. Kia ora. I mean, there's wanky bollocks, and then there's proper full-on wanky bollocks.
You know, when it says quintessentially New Zealand, does it mean it comes from the offside position into the side of the box?
It slipped in from the side when no one was looking. I do like the design on the bottle, though. That's quite cool.
It's nice.
But, yeah.
I just typed in Pia Wanga into Google Translate. It translates to "You're a wanker for drinking this beer."
All right, so
I think we've got to get hashtag wanky bollocks trending now.
Yeah, I think
along
that's
with
enough.
hashtag Iron Week.
Well, so Jamie's going to do a news desk in a second, but before he does, I've got a bit of a confession to make. So last week, obviously, I wasn't on the pod last week, and I meant to say this on the pod last week. So I put something on our group chat, and just to kind of put it out there and see what's what. And it kind of took off, and so I just wanted to. I put a message on our group chat, and then I had to message Jamie separately, and then I had to message Harley separately, and the message to them went like this: "Hey boys, I'm just winding James up about Rhys Henry coming to the Scarlets. Absolutely nothing in it. Completely made up by me." And then I start getting all these messages from everyone going like, "You know that bollocks that you said about Rhys Henry? Yeah, well, James is talking about it on the Ospreys pod, mate." So,
Yeah, fell for it, hook, line and sinker, didn't you, James?
Legit though, it made sense as a move. I was like, do you know what? The Scarlets need, on the evidence of Friday, fuck me, you need him.
I was going to see how long it could go for before you told me to fuck off, but you just, when you said, yeah, that's a good move, that is, I just thought, okay, we'll leave that one go, and yeah, you ran with it, man. So
can't help that I know rugby. It's just, can't be helped.
Anyway, let's do some genuine news desk. Jamie, all yours, mate.
Yeah, so let's start with the Scarlets then. They put out a statement today. So coaching changes down west. They put out a statement saying Scarlets can confirm changes to the senior coaching group as of last Monday, the 12th of February. Head coach Dwayne Peel will lead on attack, and Jared Payne has moved to defence. That's mad, isn't it? Defence coach moving to defence. Fair play. Who'd have saw that come in? Whilst also continuing with backs and attack duties. And then they go on to say that Albert Vandenberg, brackets forwards, and Emma Phillips, scrum and contact area, brackets, will continue with their roles. Gareth Williams is considering a role with the Scarlets Academy and Development Pathways. So to sum up then, they've got a defence coach doing the defence, and they fucked Gareth Williams off out of the senior coaching setup. So, thoughts, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll be further moves at the end of the season, if I'm honest. We were expecting those to come out now. I think Albert will terminate his stay with us, and I think Albert and Emir are kind of overlapping on each other too much, and it's not really working. So either one of them's going to go, or both of them's going to go. I can see Jared staying in as an out-and-out defence coach, but I'm expecting both of those to go. And yeah, I mean, Gareth Williams, as nice a guy as he is, and everyone says he's a genuinely nice guy, you know, what's to do in the academy at the minute? You know, the academy is absolutely on fire. All the issues that were in the academy last year have gone. There's one person left in academy that needs to go, and by all accounts he's going at the end of the season as well. So maybe he steps into that role, but yeah, I don't know. I think they'd have been better off saying, right, this is what's going to happen, confirm it for the end of the season. It's good that this is taking effect now. We might see some changes between now and the end of the season, but I think that's the way we've got to treat the rest of the season. Now it's a very long pre-season for next year, and I think that's the best way to look at it now. What I would say,
do you want to know a stat?
Oh, not off you, no.
Text it to me, I'll pretend it's mine.
Yeah.
The Scarlets have conceded 478 points in 14 games this season. That's an average of 34 a game.
Is this what you're doing?
No, this is from BBC Scrum 5, mate. This is BBC Scrum 5.
It's. I mean, when you look, I spent most of last week doing our videos, our our try-lights, and
yours didn't take long then.
I think you'll find that when I did yours, I mean, there are two missing off yours, but nearly all of yours are in close and tight. Your
that doesn't sound right. Most of them are intercepts, or the other team can't.
No, most of yours are in close and tight. which makes the kind of long ones kind of stand out, like the Morgan Morse try kind of stand out. I think there's only about 2 or 3 which are long ones. So most of your tries come from close in set pieces, whereas most of Scarlett's and Cardiff come from further out and turnover ball and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, going back to Scarlett's, I think it was overdue. Just our defence has been shocking, particularly around in close, tight up. The amount of tries that we are leaking around rucks is just fucking abominable. So if he can sort that out, actually, our attack is starting to fire again. So yeah, be happy with that.
Stuff. Okay, let's move on to some signings news then, because we was a bit busy on the signing front. So Dragons have signed Matthew Screech on a permanent deal. So he was on loan from Cardiff for the past 2 seasons, but now that move has been made permanent. Not the most exciting signing, has to be said, but that's just where the Dragons are, unfortunately. And then speaking of Cardiff, they signed back 5 forward Ben Donnell from Gloucester. That was with immediate effect. Donnell is a former England under-18s and 20s international, so that's a pretty decent pickup for Cardiff there. Moving on to the Scarlets, they signed the South African back rower Jared Taylor. As you know, we played on Friday night for the Stormers. That's with immediate effect. And then in other news that broke today, Scarlets prop Harry O'Connor has been called up to the Wales squad. So as we know, Wales do have injury concerns at tight head. We know that Liam Brown is out at the moment with a shoulder injury. And Archie Griffin is out with a knee injury. He's gone back to Bath. Personally, I think Tom Boffer should have been called up. I think he would have been really good injury cover, and he's a good scrummager. But I guess Wales are looking to the future, so I understand why they've called up Harry O'Connor. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that one then as well, Lee? O'Connor being called up, because that's going to deplete the Scarlets a bit further, isn't it?
Yeah, so he'll be back with a broken thumb before Friday. He'll be back sitting at home, broken thumb, because whatever he did it against the Ospreys last year, and he's damaged like the inside of his thumb or whatever, and it just doesn't seem to repair. So a lot of that movement is obviously putting the pressure on there. Apparently,
Thankfully, the rugby ball's that big.
Yeah, but he's a prop. He doesn't get to see it. He just grabs things and people and just. So apparently that's where the issue is. He's got a problem in his hand, and yeah, it's great for him. It's a great experience and all of that, but it just shafts us again. And we're between that and Alex Craig getting called up for the Scotland squad. For fuck's sake, just somebody go fuck off to the Ospreys. Somebody choose somebody from the Ospreys. It's it's going to be a tough couple of weeks.
If Craig's not the match day 23, he has to come back this weekend anyway. So I mean, Craig, it's not going to affect you that much really. And to be honest, it seems the less time players spend with your coaching team, the better they are. So I'd keep him away from there as long as possible, and just to get him to turn up on match day.
You boys can all fuck off. You know that, don't you? Yeah.
These are words I've taken from your co-host Hugh Griffin, or Catboy, as you know more affectionately known.
Yeah.
the Tom Boat.
I mean, we're all there. I mean, we're all in those positions. Apart from the Ospreys, because all their players are either too old or too not Welsh or too broken.
Yeah.
The Tom Boat one is weird because he plays a very specific role at the Ospreys, right? In that he is there to scrummage and inspect rucks. That's all he does. He's not carrier. He's not a distributor. He's not any of these things. So while I get the call for Wales to call it for the Wales call, because it's we're lacking scrummagers, right? We can't just rely on Azarati and if Leon Brown does.
That's it. We can't rely on Azarati.
Yeah, and if Leon Brown decides he wants to train this week, I get it, and I'm very much of the opinion that the props' primary job should be to scrummage, right? But Tom Boter is too old, and he doesn't offer enough for Gatland. The only person I could think of who Gatland said, "This is your job," was Ian Goff, and he was told, all you're going to do is hit rucks all day. You're not going to carry the ball. It's just you're going to hit rucks very hard. And he did, and he was very good.
Thomas Francis, he did the similar thing.
Yeah, Thomas Francis
hit rucks. That's it. I don't care what else you do.
But Thomas Francis was infinitely more mobile than Tom Boter, and that's saying something.
I'm infinitely more mobile than Tom Boter. And I look I'm running in slow-mo when I'm sprinting.
I've seen statues that move quicker than Tom Boter, and I love him.
I'd have put anyone else other than Harry just because I think he needs time to develop, and he's as much development as he'll get in the Welsh squad. He needs the one thing we're lacking at the Scarlets at the minute is a consistent team week on week on week, and any chance we've got of that has just been pulled away. So
going on the age point, because really Gatland's only picking two people really over 30, and that's Gareth Davis, George North, and potentially Faletau, who he said even if he was fit for the Six Nations he was going to leave. And I think Thomas Francis is also on an emergency leave. You know, people who are very established in the squad already. So I don't think Gatland's going to want to bring in a player who might not make it to that World Cup. You know, it's the same thing. So I'm going to jump ahead to my stat of the week, which is Thomas Young, four turnovers in a single match, which is the joint record with Lorenzo Canone for this season, and the first time Cardiff have had 4 turnovers from one player in a match since Will Boyd. And once again, thank you again for that one. I still can't believe you let him go for Josh McLeod.
No,
but
neither. But again,
he's too Gavin. His face never really fit. Nicky Smith's face never really fit. As good additions as those would objectively be for a lot of Wales's problems right now, they're now in that 30+ bracket. And if Gatland didn't fancy him back then, he's not going to fancy him now, really, no matter how well they play.
Anyway, let's just accept that someone else has shafted the Scarlets this week, and
I'd be more annoyed that your first and second choice 10 are both in the squad.
Yeah, that
would annoy me. That would annoy me more.
I'm waiting for.
And your first and second choice 9.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'd say that's more annoying than losing a prop.
I'm waiting for Archie Hughes to get called up as cover for something. So
no, we've lost the full tight 5.
Oh fucking hell, lads!
Get over it.
Right?
Of the 4 clubs here, who would you say had the tight 5 worth going up to international level? And it's not Cardiff.
Yeah, James.
It would be the Ospreys.
Bleat on about it look how good my boys are. Oh, my boys are amazing. Oh, look how big and beautiful. Oh, look at them run for it. Back off. If they were that good, they'd be in a fucking national stat.
Is your assignment going well?
Let's move on, James.
I don't have any other news. That's it. Unless
Ospreys
any of you guys have any news.
Ospreys re-signed some players last week. So they re-signed. Last week they re-signed Tom Boter, who I did say on the pod last week I thought Ospreys were going to lose. So he signed what I understand is a 2-year deal. I have heard 1-year deal. Harry Deeves has signed a 2-year contract in.
Oh, of course, Harry Deeves. Yeah,
one of the best announcement videos I have ever seen. If you haven't seen it, him and Luke Davis recreated an iconic scene from Twin Down. And who else? Oh, Dan Edwards, of course, the Carmarthen boy. I understand has signed a 2-year deal as well.
That was a nice video.
They nailed that announcement, club, by the way. The timing on
it was a lovely
brilliant.
Video. Really nice video. That was a nice touch.
And Keelan Giles is the last player to sign. Oh, again, another nice video of him scoring a try for one Arloyd under 16s in the exact same fashion he did for the Ospreys. So yeah, brilliant to see that. You know, I think these 2-year deals are what you're going to see most regional players get now.
Yeah, Tiger's been doing that for years. 2 years. Yeah. They don't offer 3 now.
It's a standard unless they really want to keep someone.
They tend to offer longer ones to overseas players, don't they?
Yeah, because I think as well, you don't want to move. As someone who has been on contract, been living fixed term contract. You don't want to be pissing about with 1 year. You don't, especially if you're going to move your whole family.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all the news for this week then, Jamie. Yeah?
Yep, that's it. We're done.
Okay. So let's move on to James's beef and banter then. James, let's. You've had a chance to control yourself, calm yourself. Now you've got to kind of get yourself back up, wind yourself back up, and give us some beef and banter from the weekend, mate.
So my beef this weekend is Cardiff giving away. No, it's actually Dan. It's Dan McFarlane and his post-match interview after losing to the Ospreys. So he was interviewed by Claire Thomas on Viaplay, who's fantastic, by the way. Really, really good journalist. And he said this. This was quoted as saying, "I'm going to ask and find out because ultimately those two instances decided the game in Osprey's favour." In what he was referring to, he's referring firstly to an offside, which apparently occurred in the interception that led to the Kieran Williams try. There are only two offsides I can think of that would have been given. It was Harry Deeves shot up, but then tracked back and never got involved in the tackle. And the other one would be Jack Walsh, but the assistant referee is in the best place to see that, and it wasn't called. The other one is Tom Stewart, the Ulster hooker and try scorer, on the back of a maul, who changed his bind and was clearly warned by the referee twice to break off. From that, Ospreys got a scrum, in which they got a free kick and went downfield. Jack Walsh puts a grubber in. Jacob Stockdale foolishly guides it out. Then the drop goal happens, so they lose the game. This interview has not gone down well, put it that way. Mainly with Ulster fans who have been growing increasingly frustrated with McFarlane over the season after a disastrous European campaign. But ultimately, I think all rugby fans, apart from a certain Scarlet supporter putting his 2 pence in, I wonder which one that is. But this is not a good look for the game, not a good look for Ulster, for Irish rugby. And, Claire Thomas does absolutely fantastically in bringing him back in and saying, well, actually, if you'd got your game wrapped up by 70 minutes, you wouldn't be in them positions. He just comes across as a bit of an arsehole. And just a really, really poor interview. And, especially after Scotland, have complained about the ref for the past 2 weeks now. This sort of stuff now is creeping into post-match interviews, and it's not great. So especially from the paid professionals, it doesn't matter what we say. We're nobodies, but ultimately, you're a paid professional coach. You cannot be saying stuff like that.
He's a man under pressure, isn't he? And it looks like I don't think he's going to have a job next season because a lot of Ulster fans are turning on him even before that interview. It's not been a good season for Ulster, and I could see him getting a chop at the end of it.
I think so too. Ian Frizzell is sort of the man in the know about Ulster on Twitter, who's a good follow. He was disgusted by that interview, and rightly so. I have said that I don't think they'll sack him mid-season. The IRFU generally don't do that.
No, end of season probably.
But it will be end of season.
Just my 2 cents. One, it those comments against the ref kind of reminds me of when Piv, right at the end of Pivac, when he blamed Joy Neville and called her an inexperienced ref for not knowing, for making a couple of decisions, which is just for me a sign that the coach knows he's run out, because he knows now that because he spent all season shouting at his players and calling them out on interviews, and clearly he's not going to respond, and the players have basically said, "We just fuck off." So they're pissed off with it. But he was a professional prop. How does he not know how a maul works? He's lucky it was only a scrum for an accidental obstruction, not an actual obstruction, because Tom Stewart clearly comes off and then goes back into a maul. I mean, you could call that as a penalty obstruction as well, if the ref was being a big dick about it. Come on, if you're going to pick up on any shit like that, don't pick the clearly obvious one where he was given several chances. Tom Stewart's a professional hooker. He should know how to stay bound into a maul, particularly when he scored all of Ulster's tries this season. And there's Ospreys were down to 13 at one point, and you can't say it was the ref's fault when you gave away one less penalty than us, and we were down to 13. So look, They scored 2 maul tries, and that was it. And to be fair, even their maul wasn't working particularly well.
No.
Like, the Ospreys were actually pretty decent with it. But then they could have kicked for points more. And that's a coaching strategy thing.
Well, this is where I think...
It's an away game. It's a game where you need the win, not necessarily a bonus point.
Yeah, I agree. Very quickly, I do have another beef, actually. It's the commentary team for that game.
Oh, fucking hell.
Martin Gillingham, who I really love anyway. But Craig Gilroy and Gareth Anscombe, the two most miserable bastards in... Oh, my God. Gareth Anscombe clearly hates the Ospreys, and it's hilarious. And Craig Gilroy, his hatred for Dan McFarland is unbelievable. I absolutely fucking love it.
Can I just say, just in case anyone's listening with lawyers and stuff like that, James is just winding you up. James doesn't mean it. He's just giving an opinion. He's not stating fact, and it's just an opinion. As if you're going to sue anyone, sue James.
It's fine. I'll go as far to say is that commentary actually made an already bad game worse.
Yeah.
Because I had to listen to the shit as well as watch it.
I agree.
If you
you could have done much more about that.
The thing that winds me up with commentary, right? In the Scarlets game, so we had 2 Cardiff boys in commentary for the Cardiff game, for the Scarlets game, right? So we kicked the ball. Shut up, Dom. We kicked the ball to Munster, right? And they went into a ruck, and there were no Scarlets defenders there. We just defended it and went, right, okay, hoofed it back to us. We hoofed it back to them. They did exactly the same thing again. They put 4-5 men into a caterpillar ruck. Scarlets didn't defend it. There was nobody in challenging that ruck. Yeah, they all went back. They hoofed it back to us. And while they were doing those 2 rucks, right? So Richie Reese goes, that's good control from Munster there. They're showing, clearly a tactic there to protect the ball, and they're going to kick it back down. Comes back to us. We did exactly the same thing. Yeah. So we took the ball in, contact. Munster man gets up, fucks off. We've got 4 men in the ruck, and we're going to kick it to touch. And Richie Reese goes, that's poor from the Scarlets. They're not committing any men there. And you're like, literally in the space of 30 seconds, from one kick to the next kick, you've just gone, Munster, that's good. And then Scarlets, that's poor for doing exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but Munster are good at your shit.
It's irrelevant, mate. If you're going to be a commentator, if you're going to be on a TV show and pretend to be, you're going to put yourself up and you're going to pretend to be neutral, then at least make the effort to not contradict yourself in the same fucking play 30 seconds apart. That's the bit on commentary that pisses me off, where they purposely go, and it was why we said we were going to have 4 of us on here, so that there's not like, we're not going to pretend that we're going to be an All the Wales podcast, but there's going to be 3 from Cardiff. Yeah. There's 4 of us, different points of view. If you're going to sit there, if you're going to pretend to be neutral, at least make the fucking effort to be neutral on that. Anyway, that's your beef and banter, don't we?
That one. Cool, I'm done. I'm done. So is Lee.
Oh, God. You can tell it's a decent beer this week as well, because it's actually going down. It's somebody almost tried to give me a one of those sour beers, Jim. Again, didn't go down very well. Did not go down very well at all. It was
Don't know what you're missing. You should have taken it. Be grateful of taking it.
It was almost the end of a friendship. It was. Right. Let's let's move on to the games from the weekend then. So we'll go in chronological order, if you will. So we'll start with the Scarlets. In 60 minutes we were 14-7 down, and we'd fucked up an attack on their line, and we'd had 2 clear opportunities to kick that we turned down. So, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media about, dig a hole and bury ourselves and all that kind of. I've got more Cardiff and Ospreys people on our timeline now telling we do the 3 words, your 3-word thoughts, and it's all Ospreys and Cardiff supporters telling us how shit the Scarlets are, and the Scarlet supporters going like, well, we were good for 60 minutes. So, we were good for 60 minutes. I don't think Sam Lousey's a captain, in all honesty. I thought some of the decisions that we made with him as captain were poor. There was a couple of instances where Dinky was just losing his shit with him, and you got to do this, you got to do that. I thought Dinky, first game back, he played against Exeter, but his first competitive game, 150 appearances for the Scarlets, and he had his little boy there and all that kind of stuff. I thought he had a decent enough game, but we just, when it just collapsed in such a big way. And you could almost feel it coming, because you could see the difference between the first half, where we were competitive, we were stopping them. Some of our defence in the first half was superb. They couldn't take us on up front, and they couldn't take us on in the backs. So they were kicking the ball and we were in the back. So that worked well. But then when it started falling apart, it just fell apart massively. And I guess the bit with that is, that comes down to the team spirit and the effort. You're willing to pull for each other. And I just think the spirit in camp at the minute is, they've had kicking after kicking after kicking this year. And then it's really, really hard to pull yourself together when you're like that, and we've all been in teams where that's been the case. As good as you think your team is, for whatever reason, it's just not firing, it's just not working, and you're sitting there going like, well, what the fuck, what's happening? So when you start going downhill, a couple of your boys will switch off, and ultimately they're the boys that will leave at the end of the season, and the boys that want to work hard will be the ones left. So yeah, it's same old. There were a lot of good points in there. There were a lot of people that put their hand. Joe Roberts taught George North how to defend at 13.
Fucking hell.
Well, go and watch the highlights reel, mate. And all the stuff we're saying where he drifts off on a 13. Yeah, this is what George North doesn't do. George North can't defend at 13. Watch what Joe Roberts, and this is what we're talking about. Joe Roberts will drift off, and he will cut the 15 and he will cut the 13, and he stopped 4 or 5 clear try-scoring opportunities simply by reading the play.
Okay.
And he puts himself in a position where they haven't got an opportunity to move the ball. It can't go deep, it can't go wide, it can't go over the top. And by the time they've realised it, it's cut out. So, he had an absolutely superb game. His try was superb. But yeah,
try was good. I'll give him that one. The try was very good.
But that comes, Joe Roberts and Eddie James, I think, played together in academy for a season, and it just comes from that understanding and that knowledge. He ran a tight angle on his shoulder, and if you look, he's run that angle twice before where Eddie hasn't given the ball and he's gone into contact, and then when the timing is right, pop out it comes, and it was a clear run in. So yeah, there were positives to pull from it, but then you look at the scoreline and you go, how can you pull positives from that? But there were positives for the first 60 minutes, definitely. So
I said I've got a few things from Catboy, because he wasn't sure if you're going to be on tonight, Lee. So so I'm just going to reiterate a couple of his points, and I'll quickly add on my own thoughts. So he pointed out that 42% of the games played in the Scarlets 22, and that basically every single Scarlets player made double-figure tackles. Yeah. So it's no wonder they dropped off after 60, because they were fucked. And then it's not like you really have the bench to bring on, because you were losing your back 5 forwards too quickly.
Well, we had
which is fucking shit.
An academy hooker who was meant to come on for 10, 15 minutes at hooker, and our academy hooker came on for 25 minutes in the back row. That's where we were. Yeah. So
and then you had a hooker who, your starting hooker, who I thought was a debutant because of the way he was playing. I didn't realise he's had you've had Schwartz for a couple of games. He did not have a good day. He's caught the Welsh Linex throwing bug. But I think you're right about Lousy being captain. Do you reckon Peel just did it because he thought, well, the rest going to spend most of his time talking to Lousy anyway. Might as well make him captain.
The rumor was that Lousy had signed to go to Southern Hemisphere and was trying to get out of his contract early. That's where the injuries come in. And these are rumors. These are unfounded rumors, but they're rumors that have come from 4 or 5 different people. So his injury was, he'd played his required number of games and he wanted to be released and to go and play Southern Hemisphere rugby. And that all seems to have died a death, and now he's back playing and then got made captain. So everyone's kind of gone like, oh, hang on, is he staying then? You don't make somebody captain if they're going to leave at the end of the season. So it was a little bit confusing as to what was going on with Lousy. But yeah, he's not captain. He's as decent a player as he is, and as lovely a chap. He's not captain. Why not?
And then my actual thoughts of the game, I thought that she was one of your better performances of the season. As bizarre as it sounds, I actually thought it was certainly a huge improvement on the Exeter game.
Yeah, I mean for 60
minutes. And
again,
I think Joe Roberts and Eddie James is going to be a special partnership for years to come.
Yeah.
Whether or not you can get them both into the Wales squad, because it's a cliche, and actually when you look at Eddie James, he can punch a bit, but I think the problem is the only reason Joe Roberts isn't at place in George North is because we haven't really got a big bastard at 12.
Yeah.
And I think it's literally that. I think if Max, say if someone like Max Llewellyn was actually playing regular rugby, you'd probably see someone like him at 12, and then you could make space for Joe Roberts.
Well, we'll talk about Irish selection later. So let's move on to the Cardiff game. So Harley, you give us your rundown on the Cardiff game, mate.
Well, I'll just go back and look at everything other than the Stormers and the Dragons games, really. Yet another valiant defeat. I'll be honest, I'm getting a bit hacked off with saying it, to be honest. I mean, I know it's hard, and when we at the start of the season, we had eight people in the groundskeeper to try and do a scrum practice, and and we're doing a lot better than we thought then. But I feel, if anything, we've just stagnated. We've hit this. We're being tough. We're tough to beat. But at the same time, even though we went down to 14 men really early, with what was, despite what some of the people on the Cardiff pages were saying, was a clear-cut red card, we still could have and should have won that game. And I'm getting fed up of saying we could have and should have won that game, but didn't. It was great to see Reece Carey do some busting runs, but we don't have enough of them. I thought for the 5 minutes Ben Donald was actually on the pitch for getting a head knock, which another one of those head knocks that never gets looked at, which is always weird, no matter who it is. It's just frustrating, to be honest. And I'm getting really sick to death of the bringing pride back into Welsh rugby. I'd much rather have a shitty win with a last-minute drop goal than another
feel-good factor. That's what they talk about at Cardiff today. The feel-good factor.
Thing is, I said it in my post-match reaction. It's great that Cap's getting sold out, whether a quarter of the tickets are being given away for free or not. But even those free tickets are going to be hard to give away. If it's just going to be narrow defeat after narrow defeat. I know James is going to come on and say, I wish I was just getting narrow defeats. But it's, it's really frustrating. It's hard to just keep up the positive vibes when it's the same stories all the time, because our game management is still terrible. And I don't think the Welsh internationals that we've lost would necessarily have made it any better.
People are starting to say what I've been saying for about 3 or 4 games, is that how long can Cardiff keep having this title of, we lost but we threw the ball about and some kids came onto the pitch afterwards and had a photo with Mackenzie Martin. Like that's all well and good, but you're not winning games. Like it's it's different with the Scarlets and Dragons because they may be in a bit more sort of turmoil. The feel good factor isn't necessarily there. But with Cardiff, the feel good factor is there. Your marketing's brilliant. You're selling out games. You get 5,000 junior kids to the thing. You sell 8 gallons of beer a minute, and you've got Barry John's boots. You've got all these things, right? But you're not winning. And I've said this on the Ospreys pod, and I say it every week here as well. And now people are starting to get a bit cheesed off with it. And people, there's only so many times Jockey, who I think is a good coach for you, can say, oh, we played really well, or we did all these things right. It has to stop, but I can't see where it does stop. This is your issue, and Harley's absolutely spot on. There's maybe with the exception of Thomas.
I'm not sure because I think he'd still make the same mistake. So, like, the big thing for me was we were 7-3 up with 30 seconds to go, and Bevins shapes for a box kick, and Thomas has done the exact same thing for Wales and Cardiff. I don't think he would have played the extra phase or two to just kick it out. And then we instead of being 7-3 up, we're 7-6 up. And we only lost by 2 points.
It's an interesting one, but people are finally, starting to catch on what I've been saying for weeks.
I don't think
even me and Carwin have been saying this, and there are a few other Cardiff fans who've been saying it for a while. It's just that cohort's getting larger.
But your problem is, right, that your statistics will show you that if you can get kids in the door to a game, kids pretty much don't watch the game to see who wins and loses. They just want to shout at people. Yeah. If you can get kids in the door 2 games before they're 14, their retention rate at 40 is twice as high as if their first game is after 14. I saw a bizarre study on it when I was looking for something else. Yeah. So that's why they're getting that many people in the door that early. They're establishing behaviors, yeah, and it's got nothing to do with the game. Absolutely nothing to do with the game. The retention rate that Cardiff will get out of those kids over the next 5, 10, 15 years will be significantly higher than any. If we start going now and giving away to under 16s and under 18s, the retention rate on those won't be as high. Yeah. So what Cardiff are doing is right. And all clubs have done it for a long time. If you're one of the kids that runs on at halftime and all that kind of stuff, you, your family, your club, all of that kind of stuff, you get free tickets. If they do the community game in the week, you get free tickets and stuff like that. The whole point of that is to get them involved in the club. And it's genuinely got nothing to do with winning or losing. That comes later. Yeah, that comes later when you get to like 18, 20, 22. That's when winning becomes important. When you're in that developmental phase, the fact that you get to run on the pitch after the game and have your photo taken with somebody that you've seen on the telly the week before, that will stick in a kid's head much, much longer than the score. Yeah. And I remember when I was 7, I trained in a rugby club about 5 minutes that way with the Japan national team. Yeah. And I remember throwing a ball, I couldn't say the name, didn't know who they were. They gave me a hat, they gave me a badge. I remember virtually every minute of that 15 minutes because I was training with a Japanese international rugby team when I was 7 or whatever it was. Yeah. I remember more of that than pretty much any of the games that I've been to see since. Yeah. That's the effect that giving those kids an experience will have. So don't knock it.
That's not. I was going to say before James goes on his point. That's not the bit I don't think it's the bit James is annoyed at, because it's not those 3,000 kids that we've brought in on free tickets. It's probably not even like the 6,500, 7,000 season ticket holders. It's those people in between. It's the ones who are going to be going to those Friday night, who we want to go to the Friday night games or the late Saturday games, the ones who are going to be putting in £30 behind the bar. If we want to keep those, we we do need, to a certain extent, yes, the entertaining rugby is great, but we need to start seeing some results for it as well. And it's not so bad if we're narrow defeat and it's something ever so slightly different each way, or it's an unlucky, or it's a 50-50 bounce. The issue for me is it's the same issues for Cardiff. It's an it's catching a ball in your own 22 and hesitating and going for a run, then shipping the ball onto Tinas De Beer, hoping he can pull off a miracle clearance kick, when what you needed to do was boot the ball away straight away, because we've lost that kicking battle. It's that last 30 seconds of a half where you just need another ruck and kick it out. Those mistakes that have been happening before the budget cuts. It's those mistakes that have been plaguing our squad for years now. We need them ironed out.
So while we're talking about teams that consistently make the same mistakes week after week after week, Jamie, let's talk about the Dragons.
Yes, let's talk about the Dragons. So Glasgow 40, Dragons 70. A scoreline that flatters the Dragons, to be perfectly honest with you. And look, I'm not going to make excuses here, okay? I'm not going to excuse that performance, but I do think there is important context to bear in mind, okay? So Glasgow are flying in the league, right? They haven't lost a game at home in the URC. And you're asking the worst team, I consider now to be the worst team in Europe, to go up there and try and get something out of it. That's just not going to happen when you bear in mind the Dragons had 21 players unavailable going into this game. Yeah, so Glasgow had 4 players released from Scotland. Dragons had 1 player. We had Kai Evans returned. We are absolutely ravaged by injury at the moment. And in this game alone, George Young went off, Kai Evans went off, Rodri Jones, Dan Lydiard, and Jared Rosser all went off injured. So it's extra injuries now to add on top of what we already got, right? Having said that, that performance was completely unacceptable. And I'm getting sick and tired of saying the same thing on this podcast and on the Dragon's Lair podcast I do with Gav. I'm getting really tired of repeating myself about the errors, about not doing the basics right, the lack of leadership, what I consider the work rate, the lack of work rate and effort that's going into these games. And I don't want to call players out. I don't want to accuse. No one goes out to a rugby field to be shit, right? But it's just not a good look to be thrown in the towel so early. And, you know, to be conceding, 2 tries in the first 3 minutes. That's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And the first try on 30 seconds, I mean, you got Joe Davis there, who's a big lump, right? You know, he's got 124 Dragons appearances. You got Dan Lydiard there, British Lion, Welsh International. How did they let him wiggle through like that? How can you let a guy just go through you like that? It was absolutely pathetic. And it's just like we see in the Cardiff game. There's just too many one-on-one tackles being missed. And the defence now is really causing an issue. Though we know we haven't got a defence coach. David Buttress explained the reasons why on the pod. We knew that he had to cover a deficit when he took over. I get it. We couldn't afford a defence coach, and nobody was expecting Simon Cross to leave when he did. But by God, not having a defence coach is really killing us. But having said that, I can't understand why players are missing one-on-one tackles like that. It's just not acceptable. I mean, the game was over after 15 minutes. I mean, come on, it's just pathetic. And the stats, I don't know if any of you have seen the stats. They make for really grim reading, right? So Glasgow made 25 clean breaks. They beat 39 defenders, and they racked up 759 meters, right? This is the Dragons stats. Dragons made 0 clean breaks. They missed 39 tackles, and they had a success rate of 78%. It's pathetic, isn't it? Let's be honest about it. It's absolutely pathetic. At this level, it's just not good enough. And I posted that clip up on the account earlier, the tap and go. Yeah. That just sums up the Dragons right now. They had a try ruled out, referee Screech's try got ruled out because Dan Lydiard caused obstruction. Very poor from Dan Lydiard. They have to say it was one of the worst games I've ever seen him have. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. But then they still got the penalty and they attempt to tap and go, except for the fact they forget to tap it. You watch it and it's just comedy. Like, you look at the Scarlets now. I don't think there's anything much between these two sides, but the Scarlets are bad, but the Dragons are comically bad. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. They're comically bad, and it's just completely unacceptable. And I'm reading Steph Hughes' comments on the website today. He says, we need to look individually at our own games and be honest. Ask ourselves, what are we doing enough in the week? Are we doing enough day to day to be better? Are we being as good as we can be? So that's the captain coming out saying, are we doing enough? Can we get better? Well, the answer is no, they're not doing enough. I don't know what's going on at Bustrummer, but they got to work harder because we cannot keep seeing these games. We're trying to get blown away completely, and it's game over after the first half. And it's just getting really depressing now, actually. And I've been through this so many times before, but it's getting really tiring. And it's also a game where I can't take any positives from this. I know people have talked about the youngsters, and you had guys like Ollie Andrew from Newport, he made his debut. You had Sam Scarf from Pontypool, hooker, he made his debut. But then instead of playing a hooker, we played him a flanker with a converted hooker packing down a number 8. Because that's where we are at the minute. And that's not a good experience for a youngster. You know, it's like Gavin said on our Dragons pod last night. That's fine in Hastings Division 5. That's not good in the URC. So, it's just very difficult to keep watching Dragons just not execute the basics, making the same errors week in, week out. It does raise question marks over Dai Flanagan, and I like Dai Flanagan a lot. And, you know, we had Steve Jabber-Jones on with us last night, and he said, look, he's a good coach, got to give it time. But is he a good head coach? And it's a fair question. You asked to say about Dwayne Peele the Scars. Is Dai Flanagan really the right man to be head coach? Because he might be a good coach, but he might be a coach that's better as second in command. Maybe he needs someone experienced alongside him or above him. Maybe he's that kind of coach. But it's just utterly grim at the moment with the Dragons. It's really hard to watch. And bear in mind now, in 2 weeks, they got to go to Ulster now, away. An Ulster team that's smarting from that Ospreys defeat. And we all know what's going to happen. They're battered and bruised. They got loads of injuries. You got Dai Flanagan saying after the game, our dressing room's like a war zone. They're going to go out there with a load of kids, and they're going to have 50, 60 points per on them. That's just where they are at the moment, and it's grim. It's really grim. So, very disappointed. But I'm fed up of saying the same thing over and over again on 2 podcasts. It's not enough doing it on here. Then to go on Dragon Slayer with Gab, and we are repeating ourselves over and over again. Like Ali says, he's getting fed up repeating himself. I'm constantly saying the same thing because I'm not seeing green shoots for the Dragons this season. You know, talk about Cardiff, at least there's green shoots there. What I will say about Cardiff, okay, they've won 3 games all season. That's the same about the Dragons. I know there's a caveat there because they played Champions Cup rugby, but they've won 3 games all season. But at least they're competitive. At least Cardiff are competitive. At least they show fight. And I just don't see it in this Dragons team. I'm not seeing enough fight. I'm not seeing enough work rate, enough desire. And it's really disappointing to say that, but that's where they are at the moment. Things have to change. What's going to change now this season? Nothing, is there? You know, we have to wait till next season to see the changes. We know they'll be changed next season, but this season, we've got a lot of games to play. We've got some really tough games coming up. Bulls, Stormers, Connacht, like I said, Ulster away. I can't see us winning another game this season. I asked Gav that last night, and he was struggling. We got Zebra at home, but that's not a gimme, because Zebra nearly beat Edinburgh on Friday night. So I'm really struggling to see where the next win is coming from.
Yeah,
that's it. Now I'm done. I'm done.
I was looking for the words to kind of try to make you feel better for a second there, James. I just
but you can't take positives out of a performance like that. You know, normally we always try to be positive on the Dragons pod, because you got to be careful. If you're too negative, that can put off some supporters. But I said on the pod last night, I'm struggling now to be positive about what's happening at the Dragons this season and that performance. I can't take positives out of a performance like that where the game is over after 15 minutes. I can't, and I won't. It's disingenuous to do it. I won't do that. So I'll be honest.
Before we move on to Mr. Positivity himself, I'll just drop a quick line in there about some of the stuff we've got coming on social media, where we're gonna be in a position to start looking at we've now got like video feeds from the URC and stuff like that, so we can start doing analysis games, so we can start looking at defense, we can start looking at, you know, where did stuff go right in attack and all of that kind of malarkey. So if that is your sort of thing, and I'll be honest, at the minute I'm struggling with time to do anything. So it may be a couple of weeks, but it's definitely coming. It'll probably come after my next assignment has been handed in. But that's the sort of thing that we can look at on there, and we can really pull this stuff apart and go, why is the Scarlet's defense so poor? Where is the Dragons' defense leaking and things like that? And yeah, if that's your sort of thing, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because it is coming to the last week. Because I put the Tri-Lights videos up there, which is actually quite good. A lot of your tries, Jamie, come from second phase off lineouts. Like virtually every single one of your
lineout
plays.
has been one positive.
Yeah.
A lineout just won the few parts of our game that's gone well. Actually, can I just say as well, it's really good of the URC to let us do this as well. I think credit needs to go to the URC for allowing us to have that access to it.
Yeah. And they give us all the same stats that they put out onto their website and stuff. So, there's huge.
Yeah, for all the stuff they get, they do
I
well.
find daunting. Hugh loves, but I find it quite scary actually when I try to have a look at it.
How many tabs have you looked into, Harley? There's like about 250 tabs across the bottom. At the bottom, I reckon you've got to about 10.
I've gotten through about 6 or 7 because I was looking for some very specific things at the time.
You still haven't sent me this yet. I would just.
There's a reason for that, mate. There's a reason.
Send it to me.
It's in the shared folder. We have a shared group. So, listeners, we have a shared Google Drive folder, but James doesn't know how to find it.
James can't work a computer. He's still sat there with his chalk and his blackboard, going, "Now, children, repeat after me." So, come on then, Mr. Positivity, with you.
But before that, because for the beauty of the visual listeners, James just had a great big mouthful of something. So I just wanted to add one point I had about the Dragons.
Go on in.
But it's like, because everyone at the start of the season was saying they thought the Dragons would do quite well because their budget didn't change and they were able, for any players they lost, they regained. Do you think the problem was you sort of lost more quality than you necessarily brought in, James? Or is it just, or do you think it's just one of those freak injury storms which has left you in the shit?
I do think we've badly missed Will Rowlands. Badly missed him because we were more competitive when he was in the team. And I think we've missed Moriarty as well. We've missed that physical edge, that grunt. I was happy with the recruitment, but, I can understand what you're saying. I remember making my prediction on here, and I did on social media. I predicted the Dragons to be 13th, or was it 14th? And I had people say to me, "Oh, that's a bit negative. I thought you'd have the Dragons higher up, because they've had the least disruption." When you consider Cardiff were in chaos, Ospreys had lost loads of players. Dragons were the most settled team out of all 4 regions, weren't they? And they didn't lose that many players, but it's very disappointing that we're this bad. I knew we'd struggle, don't get me wrong, but it's the cycle, isn't it? Dave Flanger's talked about breaking the cycle. Every season, there's always that little bit of positivity, a bit of optimism, but when we get to this stage of season, like the second part, it goes to shit all the time, and something needs to happen to break that cycle of despair. But I don't know what it is.
Okay. Right, so me and Jamie are lucky for this bit because we've got headphones on, so we can take our headphones off and put them down and wait till James has stopped talking. But Harley, I'm afraid, mate, you got earbuds in, even better. You take your buds out, James. You take yours. James, you crack on, son.
Good win that.
No, it wasn't.
A poor game for the spectator. As an Ospreys fan, it was both equal parts frustrating but also really engaging. And in the IRE group chat, we were all convinced that we were dead and buried, especially after that. You had sort of the Tom Stewart, you had the yellow cards, Jake Flannery hits that penalty then on 74, 76 minutes, and you're like, this is done. It's been error-ridden game, but we just probably couldn't break Ulster's defence. And then, just 20 years old hitting a 40-metre drop goal like that. Poor. but that this team does not know when it's beat. And that's an overarching theme in this squad this season, is they do not know when they're beat. Is that fight and determination for each other. And Lee, you touched on it earlier with the Scarlets, is that when you've had so many kick-ins like that, it's hard to get yourself up for that next tackle or that next phase or to carry that next ball. But when you've got a culture and a team spirit that is evident, is at the Ospreys, you want to do that. And you can see in every post-match interview that that's evident. The Justin Tipperick one was brilliant. I tweeted out saying, a bit tongue-in-cheek, but he is a product of a very, very good academy. Is bigging up the next batch or another batch of, talent coming through that academy. You've got Toby Booth in the post-match press conference purposely taking in 20-year-old Lewis Lloyd, the hooker, so he can celebrate him and the youth. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to like about this team. I don't. In a way, I don't care about the actual game because you win it in literally 79-58 was when that ball went over. And I was one of them like, shit, they're kicking off. And do you know what? Fair play to Harry Deeves and Ben Warren, right? Ben Warren was the only person who stayed in Ulster's half, meaning they couldn't kick off. So the Ospreys could have their little celebration, like jumping on it, which is brilliant. Right? But then Harry Deeves looks up like, shit, they want to kick off. And Nicky Smith's on the pitch. He's already been subbed off. Like, they all have to run off. But the match doesn't matter. The stats don't matter. And actually, everyone says, Ulster deserved to win that game. They threw it away. The stats tell a different story. The stats tell that Ospreys, were better with ball in hand. They kicked better. They had a better set piece. That's the realities of the game. And I think Ulster were wasteful. Their scrum clearly wasn't up to it. Nicky Smith had poor Marty Moore running off after 25 minutes. I'm going to talk very quickly about the scrum. That was arguably the front row performance of the season for us. That was a fucking statement. To go out there, and that is a quality front row. That's a test standard front row, and they demolished that Ulster scrum. And that had 3 good players in that front row. Ian Henderson behind, Nick Tim. That's a big Ulster pack. They don't get pushed around that much. But a shout out to the 2 South African lads coming in. They've had two training sessions since they've been here, and I thought Victor Sekikete was absolutely fantastic. Really put himself around the park. Boshoff didn't probably get the attacking chances he would have wanted, but in defence, I thought he was very good. The team only missed something like 6 tackles all game. And Alex Cuthbert, how good is that to see him back? And he played very well when he came on. Puts in 2 really good tackles, wins the ball back in the air. Does get absolutely smashed at one point, but yeah, I'm not going to argue with the yellow cards. The Morgan Morse one was stupid. I don't necessarily agree with the James Ratty one, but I can completely see why he's given it. Ratty does.
Team dealer, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was for the trip.
The trip, yeah.
The Luke Marshall one is for a team yellow. The Ratty one, I see both sides of it. Ratty has grabbed him first and made contact with the arms first, but he has stuck his leg out.
I've seen so many outside backs do that tackle
yeah.
forwards, though. But I think if it was the other way around, it would have been they wouldn't have noticed.
No. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. Harley, you can go on.
So because I said I did think it was a terrible game, but I will say this I've said it a couple of times on the group chat, and I've said it on here on the pod already tonight. I take it right now. I mean, right? Yeah, we're sitting up. We're quite clear. There seems to be you've sort of got the top 12, and then you've got this bottom 4. And Cardiff are right on the bottom of there, and I don't think it would take too much for one of the other teams to catch us up. But and it's nice it is that we're averaging we're averaging a draw a game. If you look at the point, if you look at how many points we've actually earned and what we earned per game, but it was good. It wasn't a great game. I don't think either team handled very well. I think they're probably two of the worst teams to watch in the URC. If what you want is an attacking style of play, they're probably the two most heavily forward playing teams, and they do try to attack, but it just never works very well, certainly not consistently. Ulster should have played smarter. They were given plenty of opportunities by the Ospreys to just kick points and keep that scoreboard ticking over, but they thought they could outmaul them, and it didn't work. And kudos to the Ospreys for basically scrumming them to death.
But what is the secret at the Ospreys, though? Like with the culture and the mentality? Because I don't want to bring this back to Dragons, but I do think, you look at what the Ospreys did, never say their attitude. You talk a lot about the culture. Everyone's playing, everyone buys into it. Why can't that happen at the Dragons then? Why can't that happen at the Scarlets? What is it about the Ospreys? What are they getting right?
This is, you're probably starting to see with the Ospreys the result of a long-term plan. Toby Booth came in and was very clear at the start about what he wanted his team and his culture to be. And I said this when Toby Booth made his first batch of signings, right? Who did he sign? He signed Matt Prothero, Swansea boy, was playing at Bristol, brought him back. Rhys Davis, Swansea boy, brought him back. You then sign a couple of others. You get like Ben Warren into the academy, things like this. Anyway, you bring in a core of young Welsh players in, right? You then offload a lot of dead weight over a certain time, or players that are not going to buy into that culture, right? You then bring in players like Stephen Myler, which is a brilliant move, was invaluable to teaching other players. Owen Williams, people like this. Then all of a sudden, 4 years later, as Tony said, he's brought the first batch through. Your Dewi Lakes, your Morgan Morrises. People forget Gareth Thomas was fourth choice prop when Toby Booth joined, right? Gareth Thomas, people like this, okay? You bring in the next wave through now. It's a culture thing that goes right from the top with Toby Booth through his coaching staff. His coaching staff has barely changed since he was being here. First thing he did, promote Duncan Jones to first team coach. He kept Di Davis in as team manager. You sort of bring Fussell through. The boys who are retiring, your Paul Jameses, your James Hooks, your Bradley Davises, where are all they now? Ospreys Academy. Okay. Every time a senior player is injured, they're not sat at home watching the game or sat in the stands. They're in the coaching box. Justin Tippricks consistently has been in the coaching box. Owen Williams is in the coaching box on Saturday. So there is that it's the result of 4 years of embedding a culture of finding a way, playing for each other. You just have to sit and listen to that multiple Toby Booth interviews. I say, we joke on the Irie pod about Boothie Bingo, right? And the fact that he says these key buzzwords every interview because he believes them. He's like he's like Jamie. You and I watch both, and leaders. We all watch American football, right? You watch American football press conferences; they do the exact same. It's these key buzzwords about culture and about mentality and things like this. That's what I get from it.
Okay, so
He's doing a brilliant job.
We're going to run out of time, gents, and we've still got an international game to discuss for the weekend. So, couple of key things: selection, who's in, who's out, what's the key bit, what are tactics, and how do we beat Ireland? Can we beat Ireland? And then a prediction. So, Harley, you go first. Selection, tactics, how do we beat Ireland, and a prediction?
I imagine basically take the England team sheet. Kai Evans is obviously out with the name. I don't know how bad that injury was against the Dragons, but I imagine if Costello's back, he comes in to 10, Johan back to the bench, and then it's probably going to be Dylan Lewis on the bench, and then carry on, same as. Ireland team, basically a 4-year-old can name their team, because Hugo Keenan, even when he's on a third of a leg, is still going to be playing 15 for them. The only real selection is which one of the three front second rows is on the bench out of James Ryan, Byrne, and Joe McCarthy. That's probably going to be a Byrne and Joe McCarthy. I think that's Ryan on the bench. Back rows picks itself. Tactics wise, hope. Because I think the only way you're stopping this Island juggernaut is if they somehow all get diphtheria the night before, and they have to cancel the game. Because really, the only real weakness is probably Andrew Porter at loose head in the scrum, and I don't think Wales have the personnel to make that count. I don't think we necessarily have the scrum to milk penalties out of it. I'm not sure we've necessarily got the experience in game management to make the most out of those penalties, even if we got them. I mean, it's the age-old cliche, and I've just said I'm fed up of saying about it with Cardiff, but it's got to be about performance. I think if the acquit ourselves, we see a decent attacking shape, we see a defensive line that, is at least bending a bit before it has to break. And, if we could stay within 20, I think against this Ireland side would be good.
Okay. Jamie, your thoughts, selection, tactics, predictions?
Again, hope. It's just pure hope.
Jamie? Jim?
Oh, sorry, you broke up for a minute.
Go on, mate.
You broke up for a minute there. Okay. Right. I think the only way we could beat Ireland is food poisoning. That would be my tactic. Infiltrate the hotel room and poison their food. I have no idea how we're going to beat Ireland. And we talked about this on the last pod. We identified the scrum as a possible weakness. But the problem is we haven't got a dominant scrum, have we? So it's really hard to see how we're going to beat Ireland. But what we have to do, we got to get the basics right. Our set piece needs to be spot on. So I would start with Elliot D at hooker, keep Maserati as well, and I'd probably start with Gav Thomas as well at loose head prop. Fly half, hopefully Costello. I would start Costello for this one. We talked about it last week, Owen Lloyd. Yeah, he made some nice touches and did get a bit of joy with his cross field kicking, but he just looked a little bit out of his depth at times, and some of his decision making was a bit naive. So I'd have Sam Costello in there. But we just got to make sure we're error free. The set piece is spot on, because if our set piece is wobbly, that's where Ireland are going to punish us, and we have to be clinical. We're not going to get many chances against this Ireland team. So any opportunity we do have, we have to make sure that we finish them. So it's going to be a very tough ask. We have to be competitive. We have to stay in the fight. But we are going to have to play a bit smarter against Ireland, because unlike Ireland, we don't have those big, abrasive ball carriers that get you over the game line. I mentioned it in the England game, the first half, we went through 25 phases, we were going backwards. And we're not going to go for the game line against Ireland. So Wales are going to have to be a little bit smarter now they approach it. But I think if we get anywhere sort of in the 20-point mark, that'll be fine. But I am worried about this game. I have to be honest. I think if it clicks for Ireland and we don't get our set piece right, and we're not clinical and we start making errors, I think it could be a very long day in Dublin. And bear in mind, we haven't won out this since 2012. So we've got it all to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. James?
We don't win. It's simple as, unfortunately. I'm of the same opinion. You keep as close to that England selection as you can. I think Costello comes back in. Owen Lloyd drops to the bench, and then I think I don't see. I see Joe Roberts actually coming in for Mason Grady on the bench. Nothing Mason Grady has done. There's been nothing. I know he's probably been given limited opportunity, right? But Mason Grady's done nothing against neither Scotland or England. In terms of the pack, I think you might see a Dylan Lewis start now that he's had proper time in the squad. And it's not a slight on Azarati. It's you just go for experience and nous. Do you know what I mean? Dylan Lewis might be. I haven't watched much Premiership this season, but he's probably a different player than he was when he left Cardiff. Now he's being actually a scrum coach. By someone who's actually good at scrummaging. You stick with Elliot D at hooker. He won't drop Elias, but there's a very real chance that Elias is dropped from the bench. I personally think he doesn't. In terms of tactics, Hugo Keenan being out does make the heavy kick option a bit safer.
He's confirmed to be involved in the squad, so the chances are he's going to play. Even if he's hopping,
that changed.
They would rather play Hugo, because they said, I think the Virtual State of Mind pod basically went, the second best option to a fit Hugo Keenan is a half fit Hugo Keenan.
Yeah,
so they will play him regardless, because they've got because you're not going to move Jack Crowley to 15, and then you're looking at probably Kieran Thrall or maybe Jacob Stockdale.
Yeah,
which actually might be good, because Jacob Stockdale, I think, is probably still going to spend a week or two washing away the stink from the stink he generated in the Ospreys game.
Jordan Lama,
the Nearly man. No, I
forget he exists.
Yeah, I just think that the only other change we could see is Will Rowlands in for Adam Beard.
Or maybe David.
No, he doesn't.
Which I think would be very unlikely. But
the thing is, and I'll say it with Adam Beard, even if you don't rate it, right? The whole point is Adam Beard wouldn't make an impact from the bench.
Yeah.
If you want Teddy Williams involved, you drop Tame Basham from the bench and you bring Teddy Williams in. That's how you get all four of them in that squad. And you start looking at, I know Harley hates it, right? But you start looking at Teddy as a 6. Right?
They need to grunt, though, don't they? They need grunt, so that might not be a bad shout. We may not like it, but Teddy Williams has been
unless you change the full front row, the full second row. But then again,
unless Teddy Williams is great until he's pushing the scrum.
I'd say we put Mason Grady to 8 and George North to 6. I think that's a good option for a fast, dynamic, big pack.
I was going to say, it'd be very athletic. I'm not sure how good it'd be with all the other bits.
So, it's all feeling a bit doom and gloom, boys, isn't it? It's all kind of, it's a difficult...
You tell us Wales by one.
In Wales by 1, yeah. It's a difficult one to see how we, how we do pull ourselves out of it, because Ireland are just so dominant at the minute, and we're struggling. So, I think for me, we need to find ways of breaking the game up. We play too easily into Ireland's game. We give them we said we're going to keep the ball on the pitch because we're fitter than them. Well, we're not fitter than them anymore. We're going to take them on up front because we're bigger than them. We're not bigger than them anymore. They've outplayed us at the game that we used to play, and they've actually invested in academies to outdo us at what we used to do. So I think we need to find a different way of playing, a more broken up game, and this is why I've got a feeling that Hardy will come in at 9, because Hardy, with his tap and goes, he breaks the game up. You look at the tries that Hardy's. I don't particularly like him as a player because he plays better for Wales than he does for the Scarlets. He's nowhere near the player at the Scarlets as he is when he plays for Wales, but he does break up a game. His tap and go is exceptional. It makes yards. I think those are the kind of things that we need to do. We need to find a different route around lineouts. We need to find a different route off the back of a scrum. We need a channel 1 ball off of scrum, and we need to work moves off that channel 1 ball. The weakest area we've got at the minute is inside centre, and that's no reflection on Nick Tompkins. I think Nick Tompkins is a really decent player, but he's going to get battered left, right, and centre by Bundyaki. And you know, I feel sorry for the guy because he's just getting ragdolled every week, and he's getting thrown around. And he's one of the bravest defenders at 12 that I've seen. And if he was a foot taller and 2 stone heavier, then he'd be great. But I just have serious concerns over his long-term viability as a human being if we keep putting him at 12 and letting big people run at him. So, yeah, for me, it's about breaking the game up. It's about how we change the mindset on that pitch. But again, it's not a Gatland way of doing things. So I think we'll just play down Ireland's throat, and I can see us taking a right royal spanking. So
yeah, I think 10 is the problem position for me, and we need whoever gets that, 10 jersey, they need to be able to control the game, because I know they're young kids, but at the moment I'm not seeing it from Costello and I'm not seeing it from Johan Lloyd. We just need a game controller. By God, we must stand bigger though, don't we? And we got to be patient. We got to stick with them. They're kids, but at the moment I think we're very vulnerable at 10.
Jamie doing his Sean Holly impression.
I think Costello definitely can do it, but I think
potentially,
that's the first half of the Scotland game. Pretty much everything was thrown up as stink, and I think you're always going to struggle. Like I do think we probably,
but then
I don't think we necessarily would have scored like the Alex Mann try if Costello was there and not Johan Lloyd. But also I feel like we'd have taken points when they were on offer more if Costello was playing.
But Costello's been out since he's played 1 game since the end of the World Cup. Realistically, and then we throw him back into it, and this is the issue. Right, gentlemen, we are running out of time rapidly, so I will say one more time about our YouTube channel. To subscribe to it, we've got some really, really cool things coming on there, so please do like and share and tell your friends, because those bastards are making money out of us, and until we get to 500, we aren't going to hope in hell of getting any of that. So, do your best to maybe get pissed before the game. Maybe not wait until halfway through. Maybe not have a good session before the game, and then maybe pass out about halfway through the first half. Maybe wake up 10 minutes ago, something like that. Maybe that's the way to enjoy the game. I don't know, but it's going to be a tough one. Okay, well, we will be back again next week. Enjoy your rugby, gentlemen. All the very best. Have a good one. And I shall catch up with you next week. Toodle pips.
Bye now.
Ta-ra.